So we have to be real cozy. Of course, Diane has to talk to Becky anyway on the home. I told Chris to come down.
This thing up here says that we're live.
Right now?
Yeah, but I'm not seeing. We might have to try it off your phone instead, I guess. Well, it says live.
Maybe you can only
Two
have,
people waiting.
maybe you can only have one device on it.
No,
Oh, okay.
you can have a million devices on it.
Okay. I think I'm gonna have Chris and Becky sit on either side of you, and then I'll sit at the end, because they'll be doing most of the talking. So if you can move your chair over just a smidge. We could be, Becky, we could be live right this second.
We can do what?
We could be live right now. I would sit on, you and Chris on either side of Chris, or Steve, because you'll be doing most
Well,
of
that
the
thing
talking.
says that we're live, but this thing doesn't show that.
And we gotta sit very close.
Hi, mister.
Hi. Mister.
Alright. Oh, there it is, right there. It is on. Okay, so now we're still trying to figure out how this works a little bit, y'all, so just give us a minute.
You can take, I don't,
Well,
I'm not giving it back to you either.
Oh, there it is. So we've got Rick Smith and the music well. You're live for sure. Alright. Well, we need to pivot that camera around because Daryl's not in there. And so anyway, just kind of have some patience with us. This is our first time doing it. You need to listen to that little...
Hi, y'all.
We've been building Chris and Becky's house. They're going off grid. And Chris is waiting for somebody to ask a question. I can tell he can hardly wait. So, anyway, I think one of the things that we kind of need to do is define what going off grid is. And because a lot of people seem to have a confusion between living primitively like a caveman and just being not connected to the commercial power grid. And to me, that's what being off grid means, just not being connected to the power grid. So Chris and Becky, by my terms and by my standards, are off grid, and to someone else's standards. And this thing here's kind of stopped, so I don't know what the heck.
Connectivity.
Is it
Oh,
connectivity?
there you go.
Paul Ryland, love your videos. Thank you, Paul. So I guess that we are seeing the messages come up.
You want to scroll up?
And is that what? Well,
Yeah.
it's scrolled up as far as it'll go.
Can you read those questions, honey?
I don't have my glasses. Oh yeah, I do have my glasses right here. Okay, so they're saying we're live for sure. Rick Smith, Paul Ryland, the Music Well, and I'm just not sure if we're getting any new messages or not. We ended up coming to this room, and the internet connection here is not good. Is there a way that you can refresh that?
It is refreshing right now.
No, but I mean, start it all over.
I don't know how to do it.
Go back and then back in. And,
Okay. Here.
yeah. I know computers, but I don't know iPhones and iPads and iPods and me.
There. That seems to be more live because it's showing me with my
Yeah,
phone.
alright. Okay. Hey, Roy, you're there. Glad to see you made it. Okay. But anyway, we were kind of going over some of the stuff about, what going off grid is. Chris and Becky live about a mile from us. Today we got the part of the roof put on, the steel roof. And we're running about a week behind from where we are live to the point that you're able to see it on YouTube.
But tell them why we had to stop today.
Oh yeah, we're getting into the time of year where the wind gets pretty bad. So like we can start working really early in the morning, but by noon the wind is blowing 10, 15, 20 miles an hour. And when you're handling those 17-foot long sheets, it's the wind can kind of turn you into a kite, or the panel can be like a flying razor blade. So we try to keep things safe. We didn't work all day today. Chris's solar system is going to be 48 volts DC, and we're using the MP solar inverter. I'm not real sure how we're going to go about the inspections on it, because Chris's house, everything has been reviewed by an engineer. He's put his stamp on it, and so when we get to the part that I've done, which is the electrical part, this inverter, to my knowledge, hasn't ever been used in Colorado in past inspection. So it has to go in through I think it's NEC code 609.43 or something like that says that it's an ungrounded system, which means all the cabinets and interconnects are grounded, but the battery itself is not grounded, positive or negative. And the solar panels, positive or negative, aren't necessarily grounded. So I'm still not seeing any questions. And, if somebody's got a question to ask, well, I would sure like to see it, because that's kind of what we're here for right now, and it's sort of a moot point if we all sit here and we're all just pals and you guys get to see that, because we're here to answer questions. And I don't really know what to talk about because I've never done a live thingy before. So anyway, could be that somebody's trying to ask a question and our internet's screwed up.
We should have done this at home.
Yeah, but we had to be in town today. We're at our church, by the way.
Yeah. Which is how we met.
A church?
Yeah. We
Oh
met
yeah,
at
we
a
met.
church.
I thought you meant you and me.
No. No. Is that a
Okay,
question?
Roy says, in Minnesota, the electrical inspection on solar is nuts. What is it there? Here they follow the 2015 National Electric Code. And there's some parts of it that have gotten a little bit easier, and there's other parts of it that have gotten more difficult. The one part that's gotten more difficult is if you have a solar system on your house, you have to have what's called a rapid shutdown. So that if there's a fire, the firefighters come to your house and they can go to one location, flip one switch, and everything goes off. Your batteries are isolated, your solar panels are isolated, and there's no electricity going in or out from anywhere. All your main breakers to each subset of systems are all off. But that's done through one switch. Well, in our situation, that's kind of difficult to do. So a way around that is we've got their little shed that's out near the house, and right now the inverter's in that shed, the batteries are in that shed, and the solar panels are just outside of that shed. So the way that we can get around that is we say that that shed is their power system, basically their grid. And so all you have to do is if there's a fire in the house, you turn off the breaker mains and the whole house is shut down. And that's the way around it. To me, none of it makes a lot of sense, but it is what it is.
So Roy is from Minnesota.
Roy is from, when will Chris's house be finished? This is, yeah, he's from Minnesota.
Wait, I gotta say, you bet.
You guys did a great job. Pat, the house we were originally shooting to have them in by Halloween. Then we had some things that held us up, so then we're shooting for Thanksgiving. Right. And there's still a chance for Thanksgiving, but it doesn't look real good. So I think for sure by Christmas we can have it done, as long as we don't have any more major setbacks. The inspector came out and there were some headers that we had used 2x12s, and he wants LVLs, the laminated things. Chris used to work for an architecture firm, so he knows all about those. To me, they're just 2x-somethings that have been glued together and laminated. So we have to pull our 2x12s out over the garage door and the 3 larger windows in the main living space. So, there's some things that we got to kind of back up and redo, but they're not a major thing. We might have lost a day over it. And Pat is in Connecticut, the great state of Connecticut. I have a brother-in-law, Mama Dee's
my brother and
lives
sister
there.
live in Old Saybrook.
So it's a small world indeed.
Yay.
So, and I think that, a couple of people kind of saw Chris's frustration at some of the things that they're going through, because building a house is frustrating, and going off the grid whenever you're kind of doing it remotely just triples all the frustration that you have in building a house to begin with, because he's got the issues with his well. The well has a very high iron content, and a lot of wells up there do have a high iron content. So we've talked to some of the neighbors about how they do their water for the iron. So that's a frustration that he has. Sometimes the money goes out a little bit faster than you'd like for it to, because things cost money. And then of course the roads get icy sometimes. Becky still has a job in town where she's a nurse, and she drives all the way into town very early in the morning. The roads get icy. Chris is concerned about that. So, there's a lot of things to consider here, because if you don't have to work at a real job, so to speak, living on the mountain's awesome. But when you have to go into town every day, well, there's there are issues there that, they're really good about plowing the roads in the winter, but still, things could happen and maybe they can't. So another question, this is Roy, you're doing a good job. Let me get my glasses. You're doing a good job on this project. Most YouTube projects are not to code and will fail. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you, Roy. I appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, because on Chris's house, we talked about maybe just kind of skipping all the inspections in the code. But they really wanted to do a house that was 2 code, and and it was just as well done as could be. So we did go down and we filed for the building permits, and most of the inspectors that we've dealt with and that we deal with are pretty good guys, all in all. Some of them do get kind of big britches syndrome, but you know, we worked with that, kind of kiss up a little bit. And Dale Fleece, blessings from California, thank you. And Roger and Charlotte, you guys have gotten so far in the time we started, and that's true, we have made good time. We've, you know, the nice thing is Chris and I are able to work on it every day, and whenever I went into, whenever we first got into this, well, you know, we can work, you know, 4, 5, 6 hours, and when we get tired, we can stop. And there's some days we're wiped out after just 3 or 4 hours, and we call it a day. And we're able to do that. But because we're able to work every day, the progress looks pretty good. And, you know, and whenever you hire a contractor to do a job, a lot of times they'll come out and start working, and then they go off to another job. And Mama D's had this issue in Indiana where they'd hire contractors, and the job that was supposed to be 3 months ended up taking 8 months. So there's some issues with that. Codes have a reason to be. Once in a while, the code is out of whack and don't apply properly. And Roy, I totally agree with that. And I don't want to sound like an anarchist here, but I just personally, I don't feel like that a person should have to go ask permission to do something on their own property that they bought and paid for. And I think, you know, personally, that building codes should exist, but I don't think they should be enforced. In other words, I've got the right to go shoot myself in the head if I want to, and nobody's going to stop me. I should have the right to build a house any way I want to, and nobody should stop me. If I want to live in a tent or a teepee or a log hut, that should be my right and my privilege to do it any way I want. The world's not that way anymore. So, you know, here in Colorado, they're pretty restrictive and they're pretty strict about enforcing the codes. And I know that they're there for everyone to protect them from themselves, or to protect you from the contractors. And, you know, I think that, yeah, it's a good thing. And like Roy stated there, you know, sometimes they're a little bit out of whack because the code for the building, for the framing that we use, is by International Building Code, IBC 2017 code. Well, what applies to Alaska that applies to Saudi Arabia doesn't apply to Colorado. So, you know, we ended up putting a concrete pad there that the president could land his helicopter on easily. I mean, I've never seen so much steel in a slab in my entire life, and over 2 feet deep, and just, it's massive. And I've never seen the likes of it. Just the concrete was $5,000, and that's a lot of money. So
That's not including the steel.
yeah, the 5,000 wasn't including the steel. That was another 1,000.
Yeah.
That's a good point, Chris. So you guys have anything that you want to contribute? Becky, say something that's kind of like your thought about what it was when you started out and what you think it is now. Because I know when you guys first started, you said, "Oh, I could live in the cabin." Mm-hmm. And you know, do you still feel that way? You know, kind of. How's your thinking progressed since then?
well, yeah, I still pretty much feel that way, that I could live in our cabin, which doesn't have electricity or heat or anything.
Or running water.
Or running water.
No running
That's
water.
true.
Outhouse.
Yeah, it has an outhouse. So, but, and so in that respect, it's easier for me than it is for Chris, because Chris doesn't like the confinement of living in the little fifth wheel that we have. He's pretty feeling pretty confined.
If
Called
you
it his
saw,
doghouse.
yeah, if you saw the video 2 videos ago, I think 1 or 2 videos ago from today, he was that's where Chris was complaining about. He's living in a fifth wheel the size of a doghouse. Where if you saw that part, you know, and that's another part of his frustration because these guys are literally living right out in our front yard, and that's not a put down to them. I mean, it's because that kind of helps them be right there where we're working.
And save them money.
Yeah. Hey, cousin Floyd.
Hi, Floyd.
And Jim, he's there. Would you be allowed to make your own LVL beams? No. They have to have an engineering stamp, and the engineer's stamp has to be a Colorado engineer. So that way all these engineers and contractors get to have their job security. And Roy, thanks you. We do work well together. And the music well, yeah, I agree with what you stated there. It's about control. It truly is.
Money.
And Mark Leonard, you're a new sub and have been watching the house build. He wants us to know that who owned up to laying out the door opening. Oh well, that stuff happens, Mister. You know, and he said, so this Mister thing. Let me talk about the Mister business for a minute. When I first met Chris, I noticed he called everybody Mister. So if you go all the way back to the beginning of the videos, everybody catches on to this Mister thing, including me, and man, it's deep. So whenever they did the closing on their property, the lady that's their closing agent, she says, "Sign right here, Mister." You know, so everybody's doing the Mister thing.
With the emphasis on the Mister.
With emphasis on the Mister. So that's where that comes from. And we thought about getting T-shirts that say Mister on them and selling them or something. But yeah, that's really good, Mark. Thank you for posting that. And then Floyd says, Chris, to live in a 20-foot or 22-foot 1 or 2 years. Yeah, Floyd lived in a camper for like 2 years.
Mm.
But he lived out there in East Texas, so it doesn't get quite as cold out there as it does
I
here.
don't think Chris would survive.
Yeah.
We're at 79, is it 76 or 7,900 feet?
7,700.
Yeah. Almost
almost
7,700 feet above sea level.
Yeah.
So
In mountains.
Yeah, we're definitely above the clouds a lot of times. There are times that we'll see a storm and we can actually look down on the clouds that are between us and the Sand Gray Mountains, and you can see the lightning down there, and it's really cool to watch. One of the reasons we love living here. But we're into this thing for 15 minutes. Why do I feel like Jerry Lewis in a telephone? Hey.
I don't know.
So anyway,
So Roger and Charlie.
talk a little bit more about some of the frustrations you've got, because really you know what they are better than I do. I know what you've told me, but you know what's on top of your head the most today?
Well, it's still living in the trailer, you know. Like I said, it's like living in a doghouse. I mean, it's only 21-foot fifth wheel, and it's like 10 feet wide, and I got a path from here to here. You know, the bed's here, and there's a bed here, but there's a path in between. It's like there's no room, you know. So you know, it's almost like being claustrophobic, you know.
Yeah.
And
And you got a couple of critters too.
Oh yeah, we have
one the
2
size
dogs.
of a horse.
We have 2 dogs and a cat. One's a standard poodle, and the other one's a Yorkie. The Yorkie's not so bad. I mean, he doesn't take up much room, but the standard poodle is nothing but legs. It takes up everything.
But it has been so windy at night
Yeah, it's been real windy.
that Chris has had trouble sleeping. It's woken us up as well, but
Mhm.
it just gets so windy up there. We worry if the RV is going to blow over.
Yeah. Night before last, hiccup there. Anyway, the wind was so strong night before, so then I went back home and slept like a baby. And Roy asked how deep the snow gets here. I've lived here 6 years, and the deepest that it's been since I've been here has been about 3 feet, and it lasted about a week. and then it was totally gone, no trace of it. So
I
like
need
that.
to
Yeah,
chime
this is
in
something
on
Mama
this.
D wants to
But
talk
I
about.
need to chime in on this. So I'm from northern Michigan, and then I lived in northern Indiana for 40 years. And I'm used to 9 months of snow shoveling 3 times a day. So when I first married Steve 4 years ago, I said, "Oh, I'll help shovel, I'll help shovel." He goes, "Well, just go right ahead." So I shoveled this 2 little inches, path to get to our cars. And I thought, boy, I showed him I helped and all that. And he's just like, "That's fine." Because I thought I had to stay up on the snow like I did in the Midwest. But after, 3 hours, the snow was melted. So why put in effort to shovel? But the snow here is wonderful. We don't get it maybe once a week in the winter. We'll get an inch or 2 maybe on average, and then it melts within a day or 2.
That's one of the things I do love about it up here, because we can get some really nasty snows, but in just a couple of 3 days, there's no trace of it. The ground's dry again.
Yeah.
And you can get around, and some days it even gets mild enough when you can run around without a jacket for 30 minutes or an hour. But, I got a message here from Dale. And Dale, let me tell you something. All of us in this community are friends. We're like a family on this channel, and actually on all my channels. And you're part of that family, and we love everybody that has any kind of connection at all. We squabble at times, we disagree at times, and
Never.
yeah. So it's like a family, and sometimes you'll see some of that, and there's people out there that you'll see them write stuff to me that, "Hey, no, I think you're wrong on that," and then I write back, "Well, I don't think so because blah blah blah," and then sometimes I'm convinced and sometimes I'm not. But the thing is, iron sharpens iron, and whenever someone teaches me something or gets me to see something a new way, I've learned from it, and I'm a better person as a result. Mark Leonard, I live in Northeast Ohio.
A Buckeye?
So you would know, Becky, how much snow I have
Oh.
seen. I think
Yeah,
Becky
I'm
moved up here
Becky.
when she was pretty
I'm
little.
Daryl.
This is Daryl and this is Becky.
I'm Steve's
Yeah.
wife. This one.
But I do have to say, Chris and I lived in South Dakota,
Oh,
and
right.
so we did get a lot of snow and a lot of cold and
We
blowing.
know what snow and cold is.
So yeah, we
But
get
how would you
blizzards.
compare that to here?
Oh, we'd get blizzards and be snowed in for a day or so, and it'd stick.
Add Mister.
No, I was just gonna say, going back to the frustration though, one other thing that really frustrates me is, as you all have seen, on the videos, you see me wearing this neck brace. Well, that's because I had surgery in my neck. Well, that's been, 3, 4, 5 months, 4 months ago?
July.
I'm not
It
sure.
was in July.
July.
And it's
And,
November the 1st.
So been
My
3
neck
months.
still hurts. And, it's hard to work, with your neck hurting and I just kind of had a cold and it feels like it's moved into my chest and that, bothers me a lot. Those kind of things, frustrate me really bad. And then today,
Uh-oh.
we get this door delivered.
Oh, it came?
Oh, so the door came.
This door is
Let's hear about
a
the
huge door. It's got side lights on it. It's a regular 36-inch 3.0 door with side lights.
14
So this guy brings it up and he drops it off and he gets in his truck and leaves.
and it's just
He didn't even bother to ask me
yard.
if I needed help, to move the thing.
So where is the door now?
Well, we couldn't get it in the house because it's too tall.
Okay.
So it's alongside the garage, the east side.
Is it inside the garage?
No, it's not in the garage. I can't get it in there. It's too
Okay.
heavy. I mean, it's like a ton.
Yeah.
The thing it's huge.
We'll have to get a forklift.
But is it
Yeah.
is it still packed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
still packed. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is
But
it in a box, or is it just got like strapping tape around it?
it's in cellophane in a crate, just like they delivered that big windows. Or there was something we had delivered in that
wooden
crate.
that you have in the front yard? Or we have?
Oh, your shower stall.
Yeah, the shower. Yeah.
Okay.
It's in a crate like that in cellophane.
Okay.
But I put it alongside the garage there on that side because of the wind.
Okay. That's a
Yeah.
good idea. Well, I'm glad you got your door. Okay. New sub from Canada.
How are your
Wild
animals?
Cobra. Like the videos. How are your animals doing? We'll let the animal lady answer that.
How are the animals doing? Well,
She killed a bunch of them last week. She killed like a dozen.
I butchered. I got tired of butchering some of the chickens because they were older or they weren't laying eggs, and I never soaked them in brine, and I didn't get much meat off from them. So when you're off grid and you're taking that energy to run a slow cooker, and it's the end of the day and you're hungry and you want to eat it and you've got tough meat you're pulling off the bones, not good. So I invested in Tractor Supply, had meat chickens, so I tried that for the first time. And originally I had 10 of them. One of them died one morning when I went out. If you've ever had chickens, that just happens on occasion. Sometimes can figure out why it happened, and sometimes you can't. But I butchered them and I seasoned them different ways, and I have them in the freezer, and then I'll be cooking them in a cast iron crock pot on the wood stove when we have like 4 days of no sun in the winter, and I can't cook on a microwave and when I can run the burner, it's only one small burner during the day. So women that are out there, you have to, Becky's been learning, it's either you run the microwave or you run the one burner, or you have to have one thing go at a time on the system that we have set up in our
Or you
house.
can just burn propane and not worry about it, which
Right.
will be their case.
And the goats are doing great. I did sell one of our pregnant ones. She was getting a little aggressive, and the other does were pregnant, and I didn't want her stressing the other does. So it looks like the rest of the does are pregnant, and I'm thinking maybe Christmas Day could be the earliest. Maybe we'd start having babies. Yay!
Yeah, more milk. Yahoo.
Yeah, I love it.
Roy says when it gets down to minus 40, then you know it's cold. Roy, in
Yeah,
my
that's
world, once
true.
it gets down to about 10 below, and anything past that is just plain butt cold. And I don't like it. I won't get out in it.
Did you just say butt?
Yeah, it is
It's been cold.
really cold.
I've
Yeah.
delivered newspapers in -22.
So
And then,
I don't want to do it anymore.
Well, you're fixing to be inside, though.
Jim says, can you explain buying property from an owner or always go through a realty company for making sure the property title is clear and no liens? Well,
We actually went through, not a realty company, we went through
A
the,
title company.
The title company.
you went through an abstract.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
so the title company did all of that. They did the
Right.
research on the title and made sure everything was clear and stuff, and so that's where we did our
And
closing.
it's a whole lot cheaper.
Yeah, then there's ways you can really cut your costs. Now, if you know how to do it, like in New Mexico and Colorado, they're fairly similar, where you can go down to the county building, and in New Mexico, you'd go to the county building physically, and you would either look through a physical book and go through the pages, or you go through microfiche, and in other cases, microfilm. So they weren't really up to date then. I got to Colorado and everything's on the internet, so you can look up property even by just bringing up a map and clicking it, and it'll give you the owner's name, how much the property taxes are, and what liens are on it, all this kind of
There's
stuff.
a well.
So you don't really have to hire an abstract company or a title company if you're comfortable in doing your own research. Mama D and I do our own research. We do a lot of real estate dealings, but that's a whole different ball of wax, and I'm not even going to bring that up here. But depending on where you live, if you are very confident that you can find out the title's clear, then you don't have to use. I rarely use a title company or an abstract company. I usually just write the deed up myself, print it out, and either sign it over to the person I've sold it to or whoever I'm buying it from. They sign it, and we go down to the courthouse, file it for $11, and $11 is what it costs for me to buy or sell a piece of property. So that works out pretty well. Mark is asking, and I'm sorry, I know these questions sit here for a little bit before we get around to them, but we do want to make sure that everybody has a chance to get a good explanation. It says, you going to use PEX tubing for plumbing? I sure like the stuff. Amen to that, brother. Mark, let me tell you that I used to use copper whenever I did my first house, and I never could solder a decent copper joint. Every time I'd have a leak somewhere, and my brother would have to come back and do it, who was really a good plumber, and he cleaned up a lot of my messes. Then when we went to CPVC, when that was approved for plumbing in New Mexico, I used a lot of that, but you'd still have to cut it and glue it and then wait at least an hour before you could put pressure on the line. Man, PEX, I use crimp rings, and I don't use the little pincher things, but it's actually a round ring that looks like you could put on your finger. And it literally just squashes the whole ring at one time. And what I love about it is put the PEX tubing on the fitting, put the ring on, crimp it, put the pressure on, you're done. I love that stuff. It's the best invention I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. Good stuff.
And we're caught up on questions to this point. So, any other frustrations that you've had? Because you were airing out pretty good that day.
His name is Steve.
Yes,
I tell you the truth, I don't know which one's the worst slave driver, my wife or Steve. Because they both, neither one knowing to quit. No, they're okay. Neither one of them are slave drivers, really.
Yeah.
We work until we get tired, and that's it. And, you know, I mean, you just saw me yawning a couple minutes ago. That's, you know, because we've already put a half a roof on today, and I'm tired. My neck hurts.
Now, what's the good things?
She said, say something good now.
I did.
Say something you're happy about is what she's saying.
I'm happy that we got half the roof on.
Yay.
I wish we could have got it all on, but the wind came up, so we couldn't. But
Yeah.
And you won't have a big
and I'm
mortgage?
happy that the weather's holding out for us, and you know it's warm usually during the day in the 60s, and usually the 30s in the evenings and night. You know, so it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dealing with the fifth wheel.
But you won't have a mortgage when we're done.
Well, no, I don't have a mortgage now.
Is that my water?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
mine. I didn't.
I'll take it, thank you.
But you did have a mortgage.
Do what?
You did have a mortgage.
Well, we did have a
Yeah.
mortgage, but we don't have one now.
Well, when
We
you're
don't
done
have
with
any
this
electric
house.
bills. We don't have any water bills.
But
Only
the
bill-
house is going to be
The
bigger
house.
than the fifth wheel.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But we're still talking a month down the road. You know, I'm still living in this fifth wheel. It's like a doghouse.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, we'll have to figure something out.
No, it's all good. You know, it'll work out.
Yeah, it'll work out. And you know, the thing is, you know, I try to show a little bit of the reality of doing things on the videos. You know, sometimes we do get a little snippy with each other, and I'll let one of them slip through every once in a while because it is the reality of what's happening. And as you can see, we all love each other. We are a family. Except the nice thing about it, this kind of family is you can choose your family members. You know, with blood family, you don't get to do that. You kind of stuck with who you got. But you know, I do try to make sure that, you know, everybody does get a good slice of, you know, the issues and the problems that we have while we're building it, as well as the progress that we're making and how well that we do get along. And we do all get along really well. And that's, you know, it takes the right chemistry between people for that to happen, because I like to think I can get along with most people, but I'm sure there's people out there I couldn't get along with. So, we got,
Popping in.
how does the points thing work that you talk about? The points. Yeah, those are fuel points from Kroger and City Market and King Soopers. And the way that I really capitalize on that is the gift cards, because they have these occasional specials that you can buy a gift card and they have 4 times bonus points.
Well, let's back the
So-
train up. So if I go on and buy $10 worth of groceries, I get 10 points.
Correct.
So then if I go buy a $25 gift card to a store I'm going to go to, I'm going to get 25 points. But then on occasion, the store will say 2 times points or 3 times
Well, it's
points.
always twice points for gift
Twice.
cards.
Oh, okay. 2 times points. But then on occasion, they'll have a weekend where if you go buy a gift card, you get 4 times the points. So instead of me buying $25 worth of groceries and getting 25 points, I can buy a $25 gift card and I'll get 100 points. With those points, then we go to the gas station, and then how does that work?
Yeah. So
I took over. I know.
that's fine. If
I'm the
I
city
like
girl.
when we go to Home Depot every month, I buy a lot of stuff off of eBay. So if they've got the 4 times points, I'll buy like a $50 gift card, and for 4 times points, I get 200. Oh, the camera just
It's all right.
camera did a thingy again. So anyway, whenever we buy these cards and we get say I get the 200 fuel points, I'm going to be buying things at these stores anyway, like Tractor Supply, Home Depot, eBay, all these, even restaurants, Burger King, for crying out loud.
So then,
And we buy them for everything. Well, at the end of the month, we get $1 off of a gallon for up to 35 gallons. So whenever we go down to the gas station, we make sure the tank is empty and we got all our gas cans with us, and I get all my 35 gallons, because that's $35 that I made just for buying stuff that I would have bought anyway. So to me, that's kind of the penny pinching that I do, that's just trying to be frugal and make.
don't
Okay,
fall-
Mark, I think he's probably already signed off. Thanks for being here. We're probably going to close it down here pretty quick. Jim is asking if we can explain how an EMP affects solar. That's electromagnetic pulse. And that can happen by several different things. A solar flare can cause that. If Rocket Man lobs a nuclear bomb over here and it blows up, that creates an EMP. And I think that would probably wipe out an inverter. I don't know what effect it would have on batteries. I don't really think it would affect solar panels much, because they work on photons and not electromagnetism or magnetism of any kind. So I think they're pretty immune to that. But charge controllers and inverters, I think they pretty much assuredly would be wiped out. But bottom line is, I don't think really anybody knows for sure. And then Dale is asking, are they just in Colorado or all over? I'm going to be moving off grid in Missouri. Well, I'm not really sure what.
You have to go back maybe and look and see what else he asked.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we were. I'm not sure what we were talking about when he asked the question. So, are they just in Colorado? And I'm sorry if I sound really stupid there, Dale. I'm assuming maybe.
There
The
it
points.
Oh, the points.
Oh.
Yes. Okay, I think that they're the same everywhere, because when we go to Michigan and we go to the Kroger, is it Kroger's in Michigan? When we go to Kroger, it's the same thing. So I can use our points card from City Market here in Colorado. I can use that same one in King Soopers in Colorado Springs or Pueblo, and use it at Kroger in
Well-
Michigan, and we get the points off there too.
So just Google like Kroger and Kroger grocery store, and usually you'll see they have several stores that are under the umbrella of Kroger. It's not just City Market.
Right.
There's
several.
many, so it's there's more than likely there's some type of Kroger grocery store, And then we do have to go to the grocery, or we do have to go to the Kroger gas station in town to use those points too.
Well, there's also Loaf and Jug.
Well, that is owned by
But
Kroger.
like, yeah, well, like Kroger, in Michigan, it's the Kroger gas station. Here
Correct.
we use like Loaf and Jug.
But
It's
I
kind of a
just want them
convenience
to
store
know
thing.
that those points can't just be used at
Right,
any
you have
gas
to
station.
go to an approved gas
And
station.
generally, sometimes they're right in the same parking lot in some towns,
Yeah.
but there generally is one nearby.
I think the only part of the plant that would be affected would be the blocking diode from Gene. Yeah, there's some components that wouldn't be affected much. I think it's when you get a lot of components working together, like transistors and capacitors, and I think the EMP can affect them. I think we're probably about ready to sign off here pretty quick. So we'll wait another couple of minutes, and if anybody else has any other questions, we'll answer them. And if not, we're gonna probably sign off. I really appreciate everyone that participated, even those that just kind of lurked in the background. Hi to you guys as well. We love y'all. Whenever we do this again, we're gonna talk about it later on and see how we felt about this whole thing. And if we liked it, we'd probably do another one here in a couple, 3-4 weeks. And if not, we'll just keep doing videos. But either way, we'll do the videos.
And the whole reason we do this is because if you have questions, we want to be able to help you. That was the whole reason I started this channel, was I didn't know what off-grid meant when I met Steve. And I just said, oh, that's nice. And I know there's other people out there that want to live it, don't know how to live it, and I want you to be able to ask people that actually do it, what is it like? What is a snowy day like? What's a sunny day like?
Yeah, because one of the things I've noticed out on YouTube is people that do the off-grid thing, seems like a lot of them are billionaires. And
Or they'll do it for a short time. And
yeah,
then stop.
I'm on a really tight budget, and I feel like I'm maybe on the poorer end of the average Joe. But my knowledge makes up for a lot of my lack in resources and my ability to just try to push through until we get things done. But anyway, I think we're going to wind it up at this point. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Dale. Everybody that had the nice things
Mom
to
and Dee
say.
signing off.
And we'll see you guys later. There'll be a new video coming out tomorrow about noon. So we'll see y'all later.
Bye, y'all.
Now I gotta walk over here and turn the thing off. You didn't blow a kiss at the camera. Shame on you.
Crisp.
What?
Aren't you gonna blow a kiss?
Nope, no kidding.
Alright, so now how do you shut this thing